Welcome back to the Hazel Rockets podcast. It's Eric and Ben, and with us today is a special guest, the creator of the Stack System, Sasho MacKenzie. I hope I said that right. Did I get the intro right there?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Perfect. So for the people that don't know, can you kind of tell us just sort of a high level overview of the Stack System, why we all need to do it, and things like that?
Sure. Clubhead speed is super important to playing your best golf. There's no one on the PGA Tour that swings slower than 110, as an example. It's a separator, and usually if you want to win majors, if you want to win a lot of tour events, you need to swing fast. If you want to win your club championship, not many guys winning their club championship swing at 90 miles an hour. It's one of the stronger correlates to overall handicap. It's how fast you can swing the club. We get slower as we get older. We peak, probably late 20s, early 30s at best. So we need, hopefully, if you're serious about golf, you need an efficient way to either maintain your clubhead speed or hopefully gain on clubhead speed. And that's what the Stack System's designed to do in a very efficient way, help you get as fast as you can to play great golf.
Exactly. So I wanted to start with a little testimonial for you. We just had our club championship, and the winner has been using the Stack System. And so we had a little discussion about it on the putting green, and he was telling me about how he's increased from 90 up to I think it was 120 now or something, and it was huge difference. And so it definitely works.
We have a lot of those testimonials. That folks, I had no chance of winning my club championship, and all of a sudden I'm winning the club championship, or, guys competing in the U.S. amateur events. Yeah, that's awesome.
That is sweet. So sort of my first question is, from a creator standpoint, what drew you into creating this system in the first place? What's sort of your origin story to get to where we are now?
Yeah, kind of drew from a few different aspects of my background. So my PhD thesis was on customizing golf shaft stiffness to a person's swing. And that kind of got me involved with ping. And then I started doing golf instructor education. Most of my research is on golf. Then I started working with some tour players on getting faster, mostly with biomechanics. I'm working with the tour coaches, and figuring out a way that their players could swing faster. And I started realizing that you can change someone's mechanics, but they need a way to work on those mechanics in order for it to be ingrained. And hey, if you're working on your swing mechanics, you might as well be doing it in a way that's also going to have some physiologically conditioning aspect to it. And I also have a background in track and field. I competed in track and field at university. I was a university track coach for 10 years, where the whole focus is just run faster, throw farther, jump higher. And the concept of overload and overspeed training is well entrenched in the science of track and field. So, there was a few products around in golf, but they weren't really following a very strong scientific philosophy, the one that I use in other sports. Hence the Stack System. If I'm going to have a player that's going to try to work on their swing mechanics, well, they might as well do it while they are doing some overload and overspeed training. And, spend about 8 years really refining the programming and the variables, and trying to make an app that was really addictive. And I partnered up with Marty Jertson at Ping, who's a fantastic golfer. He played in 6 majors, made the cut at Bethpage Black the year that Brooks Koepka won, and had a version of the system that he used and got super fast with. And he's like, hey, I think I can help you with the product here, so you don't have to be screwing on washers and bolts from Home Depot. And so I was like, hey, here are the specs for this club that I want. And he's like, great. Let's do some club engineering. So he created a really cool product that met all my specifications, and we stuffed my programming into an app, and it's been awesome.
That's sweet. Have you had? Well, that sort of brings up another question that one of our listeners asked: is was there ever what determined the weights? Like, did you just
Yeah.
do trial and error to figure out exactly what, what level you needed for each weight? Or was it like, you know, I guess all science and math to figure all that out?
A tiny bit of trial and error, but mostly systematic science. So it's not, it seems intuitive, makes intuitive sense to say, oh, let's go 20% lighter or 20% heavier. But that's not really the stimulus that we're trying to get at. So it's not analogous to lifting weights in that sense. If you go into the gym and you load 100 pounds onto a barbell and you do a squat, okay, that 100 pounds on your back is going to produce a stimulus on your muscles. Let's say 100 pounds on the barbell produces stimulus X. If you want stimulus 2X on your quads and hamstrings, you put on 200 pounds. And that there's a 1-to-1 ratio there. It's very straightforward. I want to double the stimulus in my biceps. I go from the 40-pound dumbbell to the 80-pound dumbbell. But when you're looking at overspeed training and overload training, the stimulus isn't the weight that you put on or the weight you change. There's actually 3 variables you can manipulate with an implement that you're swinging that will change the overload and overspeed stimulus. You've got the mass, that's just one, and that's actually a pretty small one. You've got the center mass location. That's where if you were to put your finger under the club, how far is that center mass away from where you hold it? And then the third one is the moment of inertia. What's the resistance to change in angular motion? So if you take all the mass and put it in the grip, I've done a study with drivers. If you put 100 grams in the grip of a driver, it does virtually nothing to your club head speed. So increasing or decreasing grip at the driver is not going to give you an overload or it's not going to give you an overspeed stimulus. It's not going to move the needle there. In general, heavier, center mass further away, and higher moment of inertia means you're going to get an overload stimulus. If you reduce those things, you get an overspeed stimulus. But it's not a trial and error process necessarily. It's let's have someone come into the lab. You can see some of the cameras around the room. Let's have them swing their driver. I want to know how fast they're swinging it. And I want to know the forces and torques they experience using a process called inverse dynamics. So we track the club and we figure out what are the loads that the golfer is experiencing. Then we take the stack, and this would be I guess, as close to trial and error as you can get. Well, let's start with things that are really light, and let's go up to things that are really heavy. That's a simpler way of saying center mass further away from the hands, heavier mass, heavier moment of inertia. And then we bring in a bunch of people and we're like, all right, what can we produce with a stick? And you go, okay, we can have someone swing all the way up to 130% of their club head speed. We can have them experience loads all the way up to, 50% increase in the force strokes. Those are too high. So then we start the systematic process of, okay, once we get a sense on, we want someone to be swinging, 110 to 115% of their driver speed. We want the force and torques to be a certain percentage higher. Then we can start conducting trials, experiments to say, okay, where are these ranges going to get the best impact in terms of increasing club head speed? So took a lot of years, but we've settled on some pretty good parameters.
Now, so when you're lifting weights, right, like there's advantage to lifting more weights over time if you want to get stronger. Would there be advantage to increasing the stack weights over time, or is that not needed due to, the driver weight stays the same, or just it's more effectively heavy when you're swinging faster?
Exactly. So it's not as clear cut, because if you go into the weight room, the speed, if you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing, six reps here at 80% 1 RM, and you grab the 70-pound dumbbells, you do 6, and then you're like, oh, now I can do 8. Well, then you should move up weight in dumbbells, but you're keeping the speed approximately the same, right? So the load you're experiencing is proportional to the weight. But as you swing faster, so if you go from 90 to 100 miles an hour, you're creating the conditions that allow you to apply higher forces to the club. So the overload doesn't stay static to the weight you're loading on. It's related to how fast you're swinging it as well. And it's not about, there's a very tiny little bit about overload and overspeed training that has to do with progression. So you can think of progression or periodization in other senses for other activities, and that kind of makes sense. We do that within a program. but not over the course of of 4 years, right? So within a program, you follow a little periodization, might be 6 to 8 weeks, but we don't periodize over 4 years like you might do in an Olympic cycle with something. It's within each program. So as you move through different programs, we've got 8 different programs right now. You don't move through them like levels. Someone who's swinging at 120 might have the same program as someone who's swinging at 90. Within those programs, the algorithms will decide what are the best weights for you. It's more of like a philosophy. That person that's swinging at 90 might need more overload. So might the person that's swinging at 120.
It's really interesting.
But the good news is that the Stack app, you don't need to know any of that, because you go to do a workout and it says, hey, load on 195 pounds. Okay, swing it. And the rest timer pops up. You literally don't need to know any of that. All the science has gone into the algorithms, and the programming could not be simpler to follow.
Yeah, I'll post one thought. My favorite thing about it too is the new records and the little explosion and you hit a new record. That it's very motivating.
That's a super important part. The toughest thing about training programs in general is exercise adherence. You want to be motivated, you want to get addicted, and we've worked pretty hard at making the app, making it easy to train, make it motivational to get back in there. You want to do it. You don't want to see your grit score drop. You want to be patted on the back when you're seeing improvements. It's important.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like the you've got this thing called a stable of golfers where you can like put all your buddies' codes in and then you can like compare. And to me, that's like the best part. I'm like, I see what Ben's doing, so I'm like, I gotta beat Ben. That's my only goal, beat him.
Absolutely.
That's funny. So another question too is like, has this ever not worked for anybody, or is that like just not going to happen?
Well, it's possible. So it's a training program. We promise nothing. So if you don't adhere to the training program, then it's not going to work. So certainly, we have people that say, I'm 7 or 8 sessions in, I'm not seeing any gains, and I'll take a look. And the very common things are, you're working out every 7 days. Your grit score is at 60%. Okay, well, you're not following the program. Or we'll have people go, this is less frequent, but I train every day. Well, why is my grit score dropping? Well, you're not recovering. Or I don't bother with the set and rep rests. So we can go into our database. I guess we're approaching 30 million swings. We've got thousands and thousands of completed programs. So we can go, okay, hey, let's take some folks like Eric and Ben, and we can go into our database and say, right, we're going to compare as best we can apples to apples in terms of starting speeds, handicaps, but we're going to say these 10,000 people followed the protocols. These people have, we can measure it in our app. We know how long your set, rest, everything is. They don't. And we can be like, does it matter? Yeah, it matters a lot. If you don't follow the protocols, and all our protocols change and the programming changes because we can see what's working. But we still have individuals who are like, nah, I know what's better. Well, there's so many questions that I can't answer and know through theory. You need to just experimentally try it out and see what works for folks. Also, there are folks that, they never really ramp up the intensity enough. So our first program, our foundation program that most people get recommended into, you start out with what we call full intense swings, mostly. And you need to adjust that stimulus and go to max intent, which is hard as you can swing. If you only do something at 90% all the time, then your body won't adapt. You need to push yourself. You need to be trying to go faster. So if you just go through the motions, the Stack program probably isn't going to be helpful. But the vast majority, vast majority, I think our average speed gain for users right now is 10.1 miles per hour. That's driver speed. So as you folks know, you do a baseline session where you take 10 driver swings, complete a program. You do a progress check where you take 10 driver swings. So for the average user that is in the Stack system, they've gained 10.1 miles per hour. And our top 5,000 stackers, which is nice to keep track of. I think people out there can be like, well, surely I'm in the top 5,000 of a group. I can do that. The average is 15.1 miles per hour. So, yeah, there's not many. I mean, I don't think if there's anybody that sticks to the program that won't gain speed. There's probably a long driver out there that's swinging at 165. They've been training for 6 years, and yeah, maybe the stack won't move the needle for them, but pretty much everybody else, it's going to have an influence.
So, Eric, if you gain 10 miles an hour, could you even imagine swinging at 91 miles an hour after that?
Hey, I just want to hit at 250. You know, that's my only goal. So I have very basic goals going into this stack training program. But I've already done the warm up, and I've done like the first foundation thing. But I can already tell a difference. Like even when I go to the course, I just feel like I'm swinging better than I've ever swung before. So I'm quite excited.
Perfect. If you're just starting out, check out the learning library. So we've got about, 60 or 70 videos in there. If you're like, well, I could really use some swing thoughts while I'm training, you know, what should I be thinking about? Thumb through those videos. They're short, they're digestible, and some of those might resonate with you based on something an instructor said or based on something you feel like you want to do in your swing. Like, hey, maybe your swing is really short. We've got some great ones in there that talk about how you can lengthen your swing. Maybe you feel like you've got excessive tension. Maybe you feel like you're not doing a great job shifting your weight. Whatever it is, there's going to be a video in there. You're struggling with lag. Hey, and work on one or two of those swing thoughts while you're doing your stacking. Be super helpful, Eric.
I agree. Speaking of the video training, so I was one of the golfers that never warmed up. You know, I just go to the range, do a little bit, and then I would just go to the first tee. So in the last 3 rounds, I have done your warm up, the stack warm up before playing golf. Is that recommended? I mean, or is there another system or for as far as like warming up, or should everybody just use that?
I would just use that. That's what I do. That's what I recommend to everybody. It's a great warm up. Put a lot of thought into it. You don't need to get down on the ground because, you know, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's dewy. Or there's, you know, maybe you're in your garage or at the club and there's not a nice place to lie down. And also most of those 99% of those exercises scale really well. So if you're a 20-year-old that's super flexible and very athletic, go through those exercises. If you're 74 with a hip replacement and a knee replacement, hey, those exercises still work. You just, you know, the ranges of motion might be a little scaled down. But everybody can do them while standing. You know, we also have, you do the warm-up video, but then we have a certify your warm-up feature where you go in, you actually swing a stack weight, and we know how fast you swung in your last program, your last workout. And we're like, hey, if you don't get close to that, and we have a little algorithm that figures out whether you're close enough or not, then you're not ready to train, right? You might think you're warmed up, but you're probably not. Yeah, so we make you take a few swings, and until you get close to that previous workout speed, we're not going to give you the thumbs up that you're ready to go.
The certify my warm-up thing, I didn't do that last time when I went through a program, and then I restarted the program a few weeks ago. It's always surprising the first couple swings will be a good 10 miles an hour slower, even though it feels like I'm ready and warmed up. Feels like it takes a minute to kind of like train my brain on what I need to do to swing faster.
Yeah, that's right. There's some coordination there, so you can go through the 15-minute warm up that's in the app. Your muscles will be ready to go. Your body temperature will be elevated, but there's some specificity to actually swinging a club. You need that as the icing on the cake to complete your warm up and make sure that we're all about efficiency. There's no swing from your knees. There's no swing from opposite side. We want you to maximize your gains with minimal time commitment. So, hey, right from rep 1, it matters. Let's make sure we're warm, make sure we're swinging as, to the best of our ability. Okay, now we'll start the workout. We don't want you going through half the workout at a suboptimal level of preparedness.
All right. I've got some selfish questions for you, if that's cool.
Sure. Yeah. Your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So my E-speed in the app pretty closely tracks my swing with a driver without a ball. The second I drop a ball down, my speed drops maybe 10 miles an hour.
or so. I can get it back up
Okay.
with some effort, but that's kind of generally the pattern I see. And so I assume on the course
Yeah.
it's probably the same. Anything you'd recommend to kind of tackle that? Or
Yeah.
should I
So
just get
we've
a
got,
therapist?
yeah, well, you said maybe that's the final step, unless you need some therapy for some other issues. I don't know you, Ben, but, could be killing two birds with one stone there. The first step would be try our speed priming with balls. So you could, every fourth session, you could say, okay, instead of doing a regular stack session, I'm going to do a speed priming with balls. You just hit special session on the bottom of the app, speed priming with balls. You're going to have to do that at the range. And you do first three sets are very short, 5 swings each with very stack weights to get you ready to go. Second last set, the fourth set, is with driver no ball. And during that set, I want you to, imagine you're hitting a ball or really tune into the feelings you have when you're generating those higher clubhead speeds, right? And then when you switch to the ball version, you try to emulate those feelings. Let's say your speed still drops. And the next step is, okay, now I'm going to, separate from the stack, let's do a session where I alternate between air swing and ball swing, right? So I take the air swing, stack radar reads 115. Okay, well, there was a certain set of feelings associated with that. You're going to be more in tune with, are you getting quick and jerky in transitions? Does it feel smoother without a ball? Do you have less tension in your hands through impact? Whatever it is, have that feeling, internalize it, and the next rep, let the ball get in the way. Try to emulate that feeling. Let the ball get in the way, and then you alternate. Ball, no ball. Ball, no ball. Till eventually you can kind of get those free-flowing, high-speed feelings going, even when there's a ball present. One step further is to do it with your eyes closed. And I would, because that allows you, if you take away the sense of vision, that allows you to tune into your kinesthetic sense a little better. What is your body feeling? The sense of time, of how long it's taking you to make your swing. So I would start with foam balls, so you don't need to necessarily be at a range. So
You
I
don't
would
want me
go.
to kill somebody at the range next to me?
Right. Most people have no problem hitting a ball with their eyes closed. But let's start with foam, right? So eyes closed swing with no ball, and then tee up a foam ball. Get all set up. Your eyes are open. Close your eyes. Take your swing, and let's see if you can do that with the foam ball. That would be the procedure. But certainly, if you can make the swing without a ball, you have the potential to do it with a ball. It just takes a little bit of calibration.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I will try that. Another thing I've noticed too is as my swing speed's increased, I'm starting to hit, so I've been a draw player for years now. Now I'm starting to hit fades off the tee, which has been kind of weird, disorienting. I assume that's probably a technique issue, or maybe just as I've naturally learned to swing faster, that's changed my technique a bit. Would you recommend kind of seeing a coach pretty regularly as you do this stuff, or is there any patterns you see with how it might affect people's swings as they get faster?
Yeah, no pattern that I see. You can see a coach. I don't think it's necessary, but hey, it's helpful. Certainly, getting lessons is a great value proposition if you're trying to get better as a golfer. But I don't know what kind of launch monitor you have, or if you're able to go in and even just get a session in a bay with a TrackMan or a quad or a flight scope or a Rapsodo, something that you can monitor your face to path. So, maybe your face angle is staying square to the target and your path is moving from 2 degrees into out to, 2 degrees to the left. I'm assuming you're a right-handed golfer. And that's, changed things from a draw to a fade. It could be as simple as, hey, maybe your grip's starting to get a little bit weaker, or maybe you just maybe your grip stayed the same, but your overall swings patterns changed a little bit. Try to strengthen your grip a little bit. That might close the face and you're back to playing a draw. But there's no particular reason why speed training needs to have a negative impact on your ball flight. If you find with the launch monitor, for example, that, oh yeah, look, my path is starting to move more left. Well, when you're doing your speed training, focus on having your path move more to the right. Think about, all right, I'm going to swing as hard as I can, but let's make sure that this club head, the stack head, is traveling out to the right through impact.
Cool. Speaking of grip, is there a certain grip that is faster? I'm thinking, maybe strong grip tends to not release the wrist as much. Maybe a more neutral to weak grip would have more release, or is that just wrong?
I don't know if it's wrong. I just don't know if there's any evidence to suggest that whether you have a strong grip or a weak grip, it's going to necessarily influence club head speed. If you have a split grip and your hands are really far apart, that's certainly going to reduce club head speed, which is why we see folks use the interlock and the overlap. Hands together when the implement we're swinging is traveling at a very high angular velocity is important. But no, I don't see any reason why. There's lots of players on tour that have very high club head speeds and have strong grips, and lots that have weak grips. Yeah, it'd be a comfort thing for the player. And then, if you need to adjust your grip for ball flight, then that makes sense. But I don't see any correlation to adjusting your grip for speed necessarily.
Cool, interesting.
Oh, I thought you had another one, Ben. Sorry, I'll jump in.
It's starting to lag for me again. I'll mark this. You can edit that out. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was just looking through our questions, and Ben had one written down that we didn't get to yet. Do you think there's a physical limit to swing speed? Like, Ben, do you want to elaborate on what you meant by that one?
Yeah, I was thinking like with the long speed guys or long drive guys, it seems like they're continuing to get faster over time. Maybe equipment, training, all of that. Do you think there is a limit they will hit that is possible? And then how does that maybe apply to the everyday golfer, right? Like, at what point should you get in the gym versus swing speed, or does it always need to be a bit of both? What are your thoughts?
Okay, a few questions there. No, I don't think there's ever going to be a limit where you could say no one will ever swing faster than 172.34 miles per hour. That's it. No. We will continue to, as long as there's people kicking around on Earth, we will continue to do things better. It's my belief is that's the way evolution works. We'll get better genetics. We'll get better training, if we keep applying science. I think long drive is a relatively young sport compared to, say, shot put, javelin, hammer throw, and those sports seem to attract the best athletes in those particular disciplines. Long drive, there's probably some weeding out process for those athletes. The best long drive athletes right now probably aren't doing long drive, or there's not enough of them. So I think you'll see club head speed and ball speed records kind of increase at a relatively fast pace compared to similar sports and similar skills in say, track and field. And then they'll just slowly tick up. So, we might set a world record eventually every 10 years, maybe every 20 years, but there might be more people coming close to those world records. But there's no real limit. And then you had a very different question. You'd asked, hey, how does this apply to everyday people or what they should be doing in the gym? Do you want to elaborate on that, or maybe?
Yeah, I guess it was going back to the same way. Do you think there's a limit to anyone's swing speed just based on physical characteristics, or do you think if they keep swing training, they will continue to gain speed over time?
Yeah, no, they won't. There's very real limits that we will, we have an individual. So what we're talking about the world record stuff is like at the population level, no limit on time, no limit on the person, right? Those will continue to increase. For an individual person, this is the best way to think of it. If you were born and then your entire life, all you did was eat, sleep, train, everything to achieve the highest club head speed you possibly could at the peak of your life, Okay, picture a curve. There's your club head speed. There's that person. That's that version of Ben from the time you were 0 until the date you die. That curve will go up and peak somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s. And then, no matter what you do, you will start to get slower. If you train optimally your entire life, your club head speed is going to peak somewhere in, late 20s to early 30s. And then our body just doesn't respond to training anymore. We've reached our genetic limit for us, and we'll start to get slower as we age. Now, that's the theoretical curve for you if you train optimally. Luckily, for most golfers, no one's on that curve. We're well below that curve. We're probably somewhere between 10 miles per hour and 20 miles per hour below that curve. So some people have the ability, because they haven't really done much, their swing's not great mechanically, boom, there's 20 miles per hour at any given point in their life. There's more room, obviously, if you're somewhere between late 20s and early 30s to get to that peak if you're in there. And then if you start training, you start doing the stack system, you can go from that lower curve, right, this theoretical lower curve that's going to be 10 to 20 miles per hour below your optimal curve. You'll start to get closer to that optimal curve the more years, more programs you do. So you might gain 6 miles per hour in your first 6 months, and then after the first year, you might gain 8 miles per hour. Second year, 3 to 4 miles per hour. Third year, 1 to 2 miles per hour. And then, we're looking at gaining half a mile per year after that if you just keep grinding. And the longer you wait in your life to start training, the less likely it is that you're ever going to close the gap, or the bigger that gap will remain on your theoretical optimum, if that makes sense. There are certain adaptations we need to be making in terms of training stimulus when we're younger, and we can't make up for those when we're older. But everybody at any age, if they're not training, can increase their club head speed. Out of our top 5,000 stackers, 850 of them approximately right now are over the age of 60.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question. So yes, you can eventually, if you train as hard as you want from the age of 5, when you can first swing a golf club, you will peak at 30-ish, and you will not continue to get faster. You will not be swinging your fastest when you are 85, if you train your whole life.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I wanted to hear a little bit about your golf game, Sasha. Do you play for fun, play competitively? Is your season still going? Tell us a little bit about it. Do you swing at 130 miles an hour on the course?
I do not swing at 130 miles an hour on the course. I've got a very large gap between my maximum and what I play with. And it fluctuates a bit. Played my last round of golf last week. Won the Fall Classic at Antigonish Golf and Country Club. Played in a scramble with my 14-year-old, so that was really fun. I've managed to keep my handicap +2. Maybe I'm +2.1 right now over the summer. It looked like it was slipping early in the summer, but managed to find something. Yeah, I mean, I don't play much competitive golf, pretty busy person, but I like to play in my club championship, and hopefully getting a few more tournaments with my kid. But no amateur events, really, mostly recreation. But I take golf improvement seriously. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was going to say, well, so being a plus handicap, were you always just good at golf, like even back in the day, like when you first picked it up, or did you just have to work at it, or did it just come natural to you?
Probably didn't come naturally. I was always decent at golf. When I was 14, I was breaking 90. I don't know, that's not very good. My 14-year-old son would absolutely wipe the floor with me. Golf growing up was more of a hobby. It was more like fishing. I did a lot of it, but it wasn't like maximizing performance. I had other sports that I was, taking more seriously. And in my early 20s, I got close to being a scratch, low single-digit handicapper. But over the last 25 years, my golf IQ has gone up, both in terms of, what's the best way to train for physical abilities to play golf, and also what's the best way to practice, what are the best swing mechanic techniques, strategies. There's so many aspects to golf that you can pick up a half a stroke here, 2 strokes there. And certainly I don't have as much potential as I did when I was, 21, but I still feel like, I'm 46. I still feel like by the time I'm 52, I could be shooting my, my lowest scores. I did have one. I'd love to have the course record at my club. It's 63. I was -7 through 9 holes this summer. I was cut a little bit of a hot streak with the putter, but I ended up shooting 65. Couldn't quite get it done. But I maintain the belief and the positive attitude that next summer I could shoot a 60. Know the course really well. No reason why I couldn't. Just have to get, keep reducing my variability, keep making good decisions, get myself in a good mental state. I've never really had a functional playing speed that was, probably much higher than 115. I could certainly swing at 130 and hit balls when I was 20. I never played like that. So there's no real reason why I can't go out, start the season at 115 this year, and so I'm swinging as fast on the course I ever have, and I can still play my best golf, I think.
I love
Growth
that
mindset.
Well, that's actually another question. So say you're striving to be, a scratch golfer, sort of like what we all are. Is in your opinion, is there like a minimum driver distance you really need to have before you can reach that level? Or is it really just so much of it just more of like a mind game, playing, very conservative, consistent golf and making putts?
It depends on the individual, but there's not a minimum. It just means it's going to put more pressure on other parts of your game, so it's going to be very difficult if you have a club head speed of 90 miles an hour to gain many strokes off the tee. If you hit every fairway at 90 miles an hour and the course you're playing is 7,000 yards, boy, that's your strokes gained approach now. If you're hitting hybrids and 3-woods into every green, needs to be like crazy high, So
did you research Eric's game just to like throw that jab at him? Really?
Oh,
what's that, Ben? I missed that. Over my head.
We had kind of a running back and forth because that's basically Eric's game. He hits it like 220 off the tee and then just has this amazing 3-wood game into every green.
Yeah, that you're gonna have to play lights out. If what's your driver speed right now, Eric?
That's a good question.
Progress check in the stack or the baseline from a week or two ago, whatever that was.
Baseline, personal best. Wait, let me go find that grid score, health, energy. Baseline driver 95, and that felt like I was swinging fast.
Yeah, 95. That is gonna be tough to get down to scratch. You can do it, Probably the folks that are scratch with a 95 clubhead speed are your former US Am champion who's now 65. If that played at one point at 110 and they were just a very, very good golfer. You need to be really good putting, short game approach if you're swinging at 95. That's tough. How old are you, Eric?
45, actually.
45. We got to get you. We got to get you over 100. That's going to help a ton.
The one thing personally, me and Ben sort of talk about this a lot, but my elbow is actually broken. The right elbow, like it doesn't bend, so it's like stuck in this weird position. It works for golf, but like it limits how far you can pull it back, of course. And then, but I'm sort of wondering if that has some sort of effect on how fast I'm going to actually be able to get. But I'm so new to this, like it's hard to say until I get, I think, more training programs, farther into the system, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of orthopedic deformities. I've got an extremely crooked trail arm. I've got a complete. You can kind of see it in the camera, but I got a complete separation of my left collarbone. My clavicle's not attached. All sorts of orthopedic issues. At one point, I was barely swinging over 100 miles an hour. So yeah, you can totally get up over 100. 40 your age for sure. 45, you said? Is that what you said?
45.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my goal. That's what I want. I want to compete in the club championship. But see, right now our course is always from, the farthest back, the gold tees, and it's 7,000 something yards. And like, I just don't have the distance to even consider playing from there. So it's, got to get more distance.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will.
I hope so, man. That's my number one priority all year, all winter.
Keep that grit score up, Eric. Keep that grit score.
Excellent. Well, Ben, did you have any other questions that we missed that on the list here?
I think that's all I've got.
All right.
Man, well, Sasha, I really, really appreciate you coming on and just talking to us about this, more about the stack system and encouraging me that I can actually do this, because this is going to be great, I think.
I think there's a higher probability that you will be swinging over 100 than you'll be swinging under 100 if you commit to the stack program. A lot of data supports that you'll be hitting 250-yard drives, not 220-yard drives.
Yes.
If you get stuck, send me a message, Eric.
I will do it. That's amazing. I appreciate that so much. And trying to think of anything before we head out. Anything we missed as far as the stack system that you might want to tell people that might be listening and haven't tried it yet, or?
Yeah, well, if your folks if you're interested in just overall score improvement, the putting app comes free with Stack Putting. I mean, it's a whole standalone app in itself, but it's seated in the speed app. It's the best way to practice your putting. It comes for free if you get the Stack system. And we're also hopefully in the next couple of weeks releasing a wedge mode that help people with their distance wedges. That'll work with the Stack radar. So yeah, we're about stacking your skills, not just stacking the weights on the end of the stack.
I like that. That's going to be amazing. Yeah. I've seen the putting, but I haven't even tried it. I'm going to have to try that coming up.
Oh, absolutely. Where are you based, Eric?
I was Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, yes. You can hit putts all year outside.
Oh, yeah.
Give it a go. There's the Premier mode is fantastic.
I love that. Yes, I'm quite excited, and we have a range that's open year round with the wedge, a wedge range. So I should be able to practice all this year round. So this is super exciting now.
Fantastic.
I need to get back into it. I was using the putting app for a while. It's really, really cool and keeps it fun. I was going on my lunch break every other day or so and doing that just as a way to practice.
Yeah, gamifies it.
Yeah,
lots of great insights.
How's the wedge practice going to work? Is it similar to the putting, or how are you going to structure it?
Sorry, I missed that, Ben. What was the question?
The wedge stack. How's that going to work?
Yeah, so we built it around. Yeah, the wedge mode. We built it around the strengths of the radar. So it's the radar's amazing at measuring ball speed. Measures ball speed very accurately. Does not pick up spin or launch angle. But for those distances, if you hit a decent contact shot, somewhere between 20 yards and 140 yards, we do a very good job of predicting carry distance, especially within the person. And so we're going to gamify these wedge games where you get more points for hitting the specific distance. And basically you're going to be able to set records. We're going to recommend wedge games based on how your performance is in previous wedge sessions. It's going to be a lot like, philosophically, a lot like putting and speed training, where it's going to be efficient. You're not going to have to figure out how to use this. We're just going to guide you through it, and you're going to have the comfort to know that the practice that I'm doing right now is the most efficient way, the funnest way, the best way for me to improve my distance wedges. And we're going to call it wedging, but if you hit your 7-iron 140 yards, then you can use your 7-iron as part of this this distance wedge game.
That's sweet. Will you be able to compete with your friends and stuff too, like sort of how the stable thing is now?
Yeah, but more. We're hopefully it should be out with the MVP where you'll be able to do it in the same session. So you'll be able to hit compete, and you'll be able to have one radar, and you'll alternate shots. And so the phone will flip back and forth between Eric and Ben, and you'll be able to compete. And we've also got a little feature in there where you can adjust based on your handicap. So I like to play wedge games with my kids. I'm currently a little better than my kids, but so instead of having necessarily different targets or trying to adjust score after, we'll be able to set our handicap, and I will get fewer points for hitting the same shot. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. I like where everything's going with this. Ben, did you have a question there?
No, my internet is.
I think you're. Yeah. Oh well,
Eric, you look like you're in the next room, and Ben looks like he's on Mars.
Yeah. We I do another podcast for like a tech interview podcast, and so we've got the whole setup and everything, and then Ben has like the worst internet in the entire America, so it's always laggy. It's funny.
You could get a great sponsorship from your next internet provider, Ben, whoever that is. Hook up a Starlink.
I looked into that last week. Actually, I got just completely fed up in a meeting. I was like, okay, what are my options here? I had Starlink up. I had other cable providers. Like, we're going to solve this.
Nice.
Oh, well, let's go ahead and end it here. But Sasha, I want to thank you so much for coming on and explaining all this to us and to the listeners and everything. And we will have, of course, in the show notes, we'll have links to go buy your copy of the stack, and we'll put our numbers in there so that way you can compete with us and all the other things. So we're definitely looking forward to it, and we're all looking forward to being scratch golfers next year.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks,
All
Sasha.
right. Thank you.